My girlfriend gave me an ultimatum after my request to change our therapist due to them both ganging up on me during our sessions. Original post. My girlfriend's parents are divorced and her father passed away at the end of last year. She was his only child, so she inherited most of his assets, which was a lot because her father was a wealthy man, at least to my standards. The problem started after she took care of all the formalities regarding the inheritance. We moved in together, which made me happy because we've been together for 4 years already. At first, I thought the apartment we've moved in was the only one she inherited because we didn't spoke much about her father's fortune. But it turned out that it was just one of the 5 apartments that she inherited. I asked her why would she withhold this information from me, and she told me that she hasn't thought that this will be so important, and she decided to either sell or rent the rest of the apartments. It made me feel kind of uneasy. If we are together for so long and we've both decided to move in together, then shouldn't we both discuss and choose which apartment to move into? She apologized though, so I left it at that. But it didn't end here. I later learned that she also inherited a house that she has sold without consulting me. She argued that she wanted to give the money to her mom so she could live comfortably. But I don't believe that anyone would just sell a freaking house to give money to someone else. That's pure BS. Another thing that is making me confused is how she doesn't want to share. Her father left a car and lots of electronics, like a MacBook, and she just claimed it without even asking if I need a new laptop or something. I'm not expecting her to not use her inheritance, but we've been together for 4 years. She knows that I was thinking about buying a new laptop. It would be nice if she at least asked. I also thought that she would at least let me drive the new car, but she just started to brag about how it's her first car, etc. She's not even driving it because she prefers to take a bus or walk to most places. She also wants to split bills evenly, even though I know she has a lot more money now, and I'm pretty sure she wouldn't even need my share of payment. I asked her about it and she actually got kind of mad at me at the time. Told me that we are not married or anything, and I shouldn't just expect her to give her whole inheritance to me. So yeah, just usual over-emotional woman BS, because that's not what I even asked for at all. I told her that I just feel left out because she's deciding what to do with the apartments herself, and then just claiming the car and the MacBook while I'm here too. She just doesn't want to understand. She actually argued that this is exactly why she never told me about her father's wealth, as if I was some gold digger or something. How to make her realize that her selfishness may break us apart. I feel like it's harder and harder for me to commit when I know that there are people out there who would be way more caring in a relationship than her. I was thinking about suggesting a couple therapy because I love her and don't want to break up, but she has to realize that she's not alone and I should be involved in the decisions she's making. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. You are insanely selfish. WTF? She's right. You are not married. She doesn't have to share any of it with you. Stop being like this. And yeah, good on her for not telling you, since you've ended up being a grabby beggar who thinks your girlfriend's property is yours. Usual over-emotional woman BS? You've got to be kidding me. Are you really this blind? She didn't tell you because she knew you would react like this. Yes, she sold a house to give money to her mother. She has more than enough, and she wanted to share with her mother. Why would she need to consult you about decisions that don't affect you? You are so unbelievably selfish. Right? Like, how does he not see himself as being over-emotional? She's right. You're not married. It's her inheritance to do as she wishes. Even if you were married, she can consult your opinion, but it's still her inheritance to do as she wishes. I'm sorry, but you're 100% wrong in all of those. It's not emotional girl BS. You're trying to tell her what to do with her stuff, and you're resentful that you didn't know about it ahead of time. You're right. This relationship is going to break up over selfishness, but not hers. Even if they were married, often an inheritance is considered personal property and not a joint marital asset. You're a hole. OP, you are poorly entitled to your girlfriend's inheritance. And not only that, but you're beyond tone deaf as to how she acquired these inheritance. It's not a Potter she won. Her father died. You feeling hurt about not being consulted over the affairs of the estate shows your entitlement, but also how much finances that aren't even yours seems to matter more than the situation at hand. She didn't give money to a friend, but to her mom, who also lost someone they cared for, assuming so. You need to learn that you're not married, and therefore what is hers is no way yours. And even if you are married, it's still to her discretion how to use her money. If it's being the less financially stable person that's bothering you, then you need to discuss these insecurities OP, rather than assuming your partner will give in and fix them. Your entitlement is showing OP. Either fix it or you'll find yourself in a very rough and single spot. Now for the first update. Would it be wrong to report my girlfriend's mother for tax evasion? From what I understood, monetary gifts are considered income in certain cases, if the tax wasn't paid already by the one who gifted the money, for example. My girlfriend paid inheritance tax, but I don't think it's the same as income tax. I would need to consult a lawyer on this. I believe that the exact amount of the gift is way above the taxable threshold, as it was money from my girlfriend's father's house, which was a lot. I'm not sure, but I know my mother-in-law. She believes that I'm after my girlfriend's money and inheritance. I even caught her telling my girlfriend that I'm not worthy, greedy, and a gold digger. She's projecting her own wrongdoings on me. It's important to me because my girlfriend is naive, and she believes she did the right thing. But I don't think she did. Now for the top comments. Keep in mind she won't be your girlfriend after you do. We've been together for 4 years already. She agreed to come to couples therapy because she changed completely after inheriting her father's fortune and became selfish. She will realize I'm doing the right thing. No, she won't. You're sticking your head where it doesn't belong. You reporting her mother is automatic dumping. It's not the right thing by her. You sound like one of those holier-than-thou types of people who can do no wrong. Poor girl is probably being gaslit by you, and I hope the therapist points this out to her. Nope, he is a gold digger. His relationship advice post is him angry that his girlfriend won't share the wealth with him. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, it's her money and she can do what she wants with it, but her father obviously gave it to her, and not his ex, because he wanted his daughter to be comfortable and do something for her future. This is none of your business. Unless, of course, you pay for everything. Does your girlfriend pay for half of all the bills? Does she pay half of any trips or anything you take together? Thank you. My girlfriend pays the bigger portion of our bills. We moved into one of her father's apartments, and since she has way more money than me now, we agreed not so long ago that she would pay for it. She has some problems with being selfish with her inheritance. For example, how she kept in secret how much exactly her father has left her and how she sold most of it already. Because it has nothing to do with you. She's already paying more than you, and you're living on her property. How the heck are you this brain dead? In most cases, men who earn more and have more assets have no problem with their women living comfortably. So why everyone wants me to feel bad? We've been together for 4 years. She has more money now, way more. It's only natural that she pays more. You can't bully me into believing otherwise. Edit, and that's not even what I ask about. It's about my future mother-in-law's tax evasion. You won't have a future mother-in-law at this rate, and there is no tax evasion. She already paid inheritance tax, and there is no gift tax in Poland. You're in the wrong. It's fine for her to pay more. What isn't fine is her paying more, and you trying to get her mother arrested because her daughter gave her money from a sold house. Something that would be considered a gift. Hence no tax required in Poland. For Pete's sake, at this rate, I'm surprised she hasn't dumped you. You don't give a damn about her or her mother. You just care about the money. 4 years is nothing. Now for the second update. We, as in me and my girlfriend, started couples therapy a few months ago. Our relationship went through a rough patch. We were both at fault and decided to work on it instead of calling it quits. Our therapist is a very renowned one, so I had high hopes for this. The first few meetings went well, but then he started to be weirdly invested in our relationship. After those first few meetings, I think 2 or 3, I don't remember, he suggested that we both need separate therapy, with different specialists, to work on ourselves and not just focus on our relationship. I refused, as I see no reason to go into therapy myself. We went just for couples counseling anyway. But as I said, he grew overly interested, especially in my girlfriend's well-being, as he put it, and brought up individual therapy each time we went. I wanted to change our therapist, but my girlfriend was really against the idea, to the point of being mad at me for even suggesting it, which I also found weird. She eventually started her individual therapy per her suggestion. It's been a month. She's going to see her therapist every week while we go to our therapist for couples counseling at least once a month. And I just want to say, she changed. Not in a good way, actually. She started to become more nitpicky, argumentative, accusatory even. She would pick up a fight over something, then bring it up in our session, have our therapist agree with her, and then they both gang up on me. The most recent example is from a week ago, when I finally had enough. We have a mutual agreement about our living situation. We split bills unevenly, which means she pays more, since she has more money than me anyway. It was never a problem for her before, but suddenly it is? And then our therapist is like, it's unfair, burdensome, etc. So I told my girlfriend that either we change our therapist or I don't want to go. To which she replies that either we go to this therapist or we break up. I think breaking up over my request is a huge overreaction, but she refuses to even have a normal discussion with me, saying things like, eye for an eye, ultimatum for an ultimatum. I'm at loss. Was my request really so unreasonable? Is there even a way to salvage this? I need some help. Maybe anyone has any idea how to approach this issue without my girlfriend going into an ultimatum mode? Edit. Since everyone is bringing up my past mistakes and previous posts, yes, I know I was wrong for this, but we were supposed to work this out in therapy. I thought we were on r/relationship advice. This sub was about, well, advice? Why is everyone choosing to ignore the issues stated in this post? Now for the advice. You were young still. Life is too short to be miserable. I'm going to be miserable if she decides to break up with me though. Not as much if you stay with her in the current situation you two are in. In time, you will get over her. Your long-term happiness is in your hands. But if she breaks up with me, I will become homeless, since I'm not working currently and I can't afford rent for now. As I said, it's way more complicated. I can move back to my parents' place, but they're not rich, so I would probably need to drop out from uni to work full-time until I save some money. My whole life will crumble, not just our relationship. Honestly, if you need couples therapy with a girlfriend, she shouldn't be your girlfriend. Move on. Plenty of fish in the sea. I don't want any other fish though. I love her, and she always took care of me. Something just changed in her after her therapy sessions, but I hope to get some idea on how to turn it around. Edit/update. Asking here was a mistake. I will have fun reporting your private messages to me for harassment. Edit/update. Well, I don't know who did this or why, but someone not only found me on Facebook, but also went through my profile. I guess to find my girlfriend and linked her to my Reddit. Yeah, not to this post, but my whole account in my previous post. Do you feel better now? Are you going to sleep better? I hope you're proud of yourself for ruining our relationship and probably making me homeless. Good thing is I don't have to go to therapy anymore, since she's not going to pay for it anymore. Wait a minute. Aren't you that guy who wanted to report his partner's mother for tax evasion just because you didn't know about her inheritance? The post is deleted, but you forgot about your comments, my dude. The edit? Wow, chef kiss. I love happy endings. Poor bastard never gained a single ounce of self-awareness. As if I was some gold digger or something. It just went whoosh right over his head. About her mother, who just gives money away. About himself, makes multiple posts complaining about how his girlfriend won't give him anything and everything he wants. Wow, the delusion, the entitlement. She's good to be rid of him. It was a fairy tale ending, I must agree. All he could talk about was women, no brain, me want money. Most people would have focused on her losing her father. She deserves so much more, and I'm so glad therapy convinced her of her self-worth. At no point in any of his communications does he mention anything he likes or loves about his girlfriend. It's always about what he wants and what he thinks he deserves. At no point does he show any love or affection towards this poor girl. Now for the last story. I, 29 male, made a mistake that ended up hurting my wife's 27 female feelings. She won't let it go. My wife and I have been married for 18 months. Courthouse wedding. Still planning to do a religious ceremony with friends and family eventually. Been together for 6 total. In 2019, we moved away from our home state and city when I had a work opportunity across the country. Then due to the pandemic, we haven't been able to travel back. Back in July, my dad wanted to see me. My uncle was having a milestone birthday and they made it a big blowout celebration. My wife and I were both invited. We planned on driving down a few days earlier and check out some of our old hunts, catch up with friends, and mostly just gorge on food from the restaurants we miss. Well, I made a mistake and told my wife the wrong date. She put in for the wrong date to get off at work. I didn't catch the mistake until it was too late to change it. Luckily, my job was able to change my time off request at the last minute and I was still able to go. My wife was angry when I went without her. It was probably the biggest fight of our relationship. There was a lot of screaming on both sides. We both said and did things we didn't mean. I still can't believe she got so angry at me for just wanting to go visit family, but whatever. We apologized to one another and moved on with our lives. Or so I thought. Last night, we were driving around an unfamiliar part of our new town. My wife said that the area reminded her of our hometown. I agreed that it did. She said she really missed our hometown. I told her that I missed it too. Then she snapped at me that I was just there. I don't get to miss it in front of her. Then she got quiet and just looked out the window crying. I was getting frustrated that she wasn't talking to me, and I snapped back that it is normal to go visit family alone. Then she went from quiet crying to outright sobbing. She slept on the couch last night. Today she's really quiet and withdrawn. She says she's working, but I am pretty sure I have heard her crying in her office. So now I am wondering what to say or do to stop being punished for a small mistake. She moved away from her home for you. She took the time off that you told her. You went on a trip that your homesick wife couldn't because you messed up, leaving an already lonely person all alone. Then you have the audacity to think that because it didn't affect you to go alone, and you got to visit your family, you think it's something to just move on from. There's a whole lot of self-centered BS on one side of this issue. It is not your wife being upset you wanted to go visit family. By the way, what did you do to make up for blowing up both your wife's vacation time and rare chance to visit home? I'm going to go out on a limb and guess nothing since it didn't affect you. Absolutely spot on. I hope he's being intentionally dense. First, own your mistake and fix it before compounding it. Second, find a way to fix it. Pay for a trip for just her to visit her family. Do something instead of being like, I said sorry, that's enough. My family's blaming me for a fight after my half-brother destroyed pictures of my mom, plus updates. Original post. So a bit of backstory. I, 16 male, recently moved in with my dad, 47 male, after my mom died. Dad's never really been in my life, and he and my mom were never married. He has a wife, Susan, 48 female, and two other kids, Amy, 14 female, and Mark, 18 male. So, when I ended up moving in with my dad, it obviously caused a lot of issues with the rest of the family. Nobody wanted me there, and basically gave me the cold shoulder. Susan, Mark, and Amy tend to talk with each other in French because they know that I can't understand them. And my dad has tried to force an English-only rule in the house with a little luck. For the first month, Mark just ignored me completely, even though he and I were forced to share a room since the house didn't have any space. I tried to be nice, but I just lost my mom and it hurts. And it's been so much change so quickly. 2 days ago, though, I found postcards and pictures and letters from my mom ripped into a bunch of pieces and scattered all across my bed. I kept them in a box under my bed, and Mark had been the only one in the house with me at a time, so I know he did it. I started yelling at him, and we ended up verbally fighting right as Susan and Amy got back home. I can't remember what Mark said anymore because I was so mad that I wasn't thinking straight, but I remember hitting him. We both exchanged a couple of punches, and I accidentally elbowed Amy in the nose while she and Susan were trying to separate us, so she was bleeding too. When my dad got home, we were still yelling, and Susan was trying to throw me out of the house. I couldn't stop crying because I just had my only actual photos of my mom ruined, and I don't know if we can fix them. My dad tried to settle everyone down, but didn't end up punishing Mark because there's no actual proof that he did it. I got in trouble for throwing the first punch though, and Susan is still trying to convince my dad to send me somewhere else. Both Amy and Mark keep telling me that I ruined their family by coming here, but I didn't really have a choice. I know I shouldn't have hit him, but I was so mad I didn't think. I know I shouldn't have escalated anything, but am I really the one at fault here? I don't know how I'm supposed to live with Mark anymore. Now for the top advice before reading the update. These parents need to hold somebody accountable because obviously your pictures did just rip themselves up. You're right that you shouldn't have hit your half-brother, but assuming that your mom passed away rather recently, you're in grief. So it's not unreasonable that you'd be upset by this. I'm sorry this happened to you. That's a truly awful thing to discover. It's been about 2.5 months and it was really sudden. My mom and I were really close. And I think I've seen my dad twice before I had to go live with him, and not for almost a decade. I know I still have recent pictures on my phone, but it's not the same. From what I've figured out, Susan knew about the affair but didn't know about me until my mom died. Amy and Mark didn't know about the affair at all. They're mad at me for existing, but they're also really upset with my dad for good reason. I don't have any family on my mom's side that can take me in, and my dad lives in a different country than my mom and I lived in before. So we're not close to anyone I used to know. I just don't know how to tell my dad how isolated I feel without sounding ungrateful for him being able to take me in after my mom died. Yeah, I can only imagine how hard everything is right now. Your whole life has basically been flipped upside down. Is there anyone on your mom's side you could talk to? Maybe even live with for a few years until you're old enough to get your own place? I think that would be worth exploring, to get yourself out of this environment that doesn't seem to be getting off on the right foot. It's just my grandparents on my mom's side, and they basically disowned her because my dad was married to his wife when my mom got pregnant. They're very religious, and I haven't had any contact with them since I was born. They didn't even come to our funeral. Now for the first update. So I've posted about this in here before, but things have gotten worse and I feel like I don't know how to navigate it. It's been about 6 months since I, 16 male, had to move in with my dad, 47 male, and his family after my mom died, and I still feel like his wife and my half-siblings despise me just for being there. The issue of my mom's pictures getting destroyed turned what was already a crappy situation into something that is just killing me. I ended up sleeping on the couch for almost 2 months because I couldn't stand the sight of my half-brother Mark, 18 male, after what he did to my stuff, and started carrying a backpack around the house with anything personal that I had brought from my mom's apartment wherever I went, so nothing else could be damaged. Mark ended up apologizing to me, but it seemed more of a show for my dad than an actual apology to me. My dad's wife, Susan, 48 female, and my half-sister Amy, now 15 female, still barely acknowledged me and still almost exclusively used French in the house, which I'm only now starting to pick up words in conversation for. I've always felt like a stranger in this house, and while I understand why they don't want me around, I don't know what I can do to try and make things work. The worst of it came 3 weeks ago when I lost my keys to the house and got stuck out in the rain after I came home. I tried calling my dad, but he didn't pick up, and I rang the doorbell as many times as I could because I saw Susan's car outside the house, so I know she was home. There wasn't much close by us, so I couldn't walk anywhere to wait. By the time my dad got home an hour and a half later, I was soaked and cold, and when we got inside, Susan just said that she was on a call and couldn't hear the doorbell ringing. I couldn't even talk to her and just went upstairs and cried in the bathroom before going to bed. My dad apologized later for not seeing my message sooner, but that's not really the issue here. I feel sick living here and can barely eat or sleep half the time. My grades are tanking and I don't feel like I can talk to anyone. I miss my mom, and everyone is pretending like she never existed, and I have to basically do the same thing so nobody at home gets mad at me. The main issue is, a week ago, my dad's best friend and his husband, who I've met a couple times and stayed with the first couple nights after I reconnected with my dad, while he was trying to figure out how to bring me home, heard about me being locked out of the house and asked if I wanted to come stay with them for a while. I want to say yes so bad, because anywhere has to be better than where I'm staying now. But I know it's going to cause issues with my dad, because he ruined his entire relationship with his family to be able to bring me home so I wouldn't have to go into foster care, and it's going to seem incredibly ungrateful. I know my dad's trying, he really is, but I don't know what I'm going to do if I have to keep living in his house until I turn 18. How do I broach this subject with him? Is trying to move out even worth it at this point, or should I just toughen up and deal with it for the next year and a half? You're living in a hostile environment. With time, that will really affect your health negatively. You've been offered a safe space to live. Don't walk, but run in that direction. Your dad is the adult. Let him deal with all the negative consequences. Put yourself first. I'm really sorry about the loss of your mother. Honestly, I feel like it probably already is. I'm so tired all the time but can't sleep, and somehow still can't get out of bed in the morning. I feel like I haven't even gotten a chance to breathe or process the fact that my mom's dead because there's been so much change so quick, which is also kind of why I don't want to have to move houses again. I am so sorry. Your father's wife and your half-siblings have a lot of misplaced anger. Do they treat your father the same way they've been treating you? Although in relation to the advice you're seeking, that's neither here nor there. I would definitely take your dad's friends up on the offer, even if it's just for a short while. You need to get out of that toxic situation. You also need to have a frank talk with your dad. Is he backing you up in these situations, or does he stand by and let them treat you like that? You're going through a rough time, and it must be terrible to feel like no one is there to support you. There was definitely a lot of tension between my dad, Amy, and Susan, but that seems to have mostly gone away after the first couple months. Mark seems still angry with him, but it kind of feels like they just heard all that anger on me. I've tried talking to my dad about it, at least a little. But there aren't a lot of times where it's just the two of us and I don't feel comfortable saying anything in front of everyone else. Nobody really does anything to me in front of my dad, except the language thing, which he does try and stop every time he catches it. But Mark and Susan usually just do things behind his back to hurt me. And I think my dad doesn't want to believe that his wife and kids are capable of treating me like that. Now for the second update. It's been about a week since I talked to my dad, and I've had a couple people message me about an update, so I figured I'd give one. For those who didn't see my original post, I, 16 male, had to move in with my dad, 47 male, and his family after my mom died, and things have been extremely strained. The worst incidences being my half-brother ripping pictures of my mom up, and my dad's wife leaving me locked out of the house. So I was given the offer to move out by my dad's friend and his husband, both 30s male. I followed a couple people's suggestion and texted my dad's friend that I wanted to leave, and they ended up suggesting we all go out to lunch. I think they could both tell how nervous I was around my dad, and my dad's friend John ended up being the one to bring up the idea of me moving out. My dad seemed completely blindsided by it and asked why I wanted to move out. John and his husband Ben reminded him about everything that's been going on at home, and I just kind of sat there. My dad seemed really upset, and it made me feel terrible because I already felt guilty about leaving. But then he just asked if I really wanted to go. I said yes, and he just immediately agreed. It kind of hit me that I wanted him to try and fight for me, to say sorry for everything that he's been letting happen, and for my dad to try and keep me at home. But he just let me go like it was nothing. It's been hard after my mom died, and my dad's the only family I've got left, so it really didn't make me feel any better about leaving, even though I don't have to deal with my dad's family anymore. Ben took me back to their apartment while John went with my dad to get my stuff from the house, and they had set up their extra room for me already. He apologized that they hadn't been able to do this sooner, and that they hoped I would like living with them. John came back with all of my things, and they kind of gave me time to decompress. I ended up sleeping for almost 16 hours because I was so exhausted. Over the last week, they've been really nice about making me feel at home, and have talked to me about getting me into therapy to deal with losing my mom and everything that happened at my dad's house. They're also trying to figure out how to move me into a different school, so I don't have to deal with my half-sister and everyone that knew my half-brother. It's the first time in months that I feel like I can actually breathe, and I don't feel like I'm constantly on guard. My dad hasn't texted me much or reached out in the last week, so I don't know what's going to happen with him. But for now, I'm safe, I guess. So that's what happened so far. Thanks for everyone that gave me advice and wished me well. It's been really hard lately, and it made me feel less alone. Edit: a quick update over the last 24 hours or so. Ben's sister somehow saw this and sent it to him, so he and John came in and asked. They never heard about a picture incident, and apologized that they hadn't asked to get me out sooner. They had no idea how bad it was, and said I can stay as long as I want or need to. I realized then that I hadn't really said thanks to them because it's been so crazy. So I told them how much I appreciated having the place to stay. It was a really emotional moment, honestly, and I'm glad it happened. They did think it was funny that they've been called everything from my roommates to my new landlord, so that's helped soften the mood a little. I'm sorry I haven't been able to respond to many comments. This feels really overwhelming, but I just wanted everyone to know that the support means a lot. Thanks. It sounds like you are in a good situation after being in a very bad one. It was good you moved out, as your dad was not likely to change his wife and children. Definitely go to therapy. You went through a lot, and it sounds like John and Ben are good people. Maybe they have a little experience with tough family situations and can be there to help you. You can definitely now rest and then be able to get back up in a situation that allows you to focus on your best future. I'm sorry your dad didn't work out, but after some time, you will be 1,000 times better off than if you had stayed. His family was abusive to you and you aren't the problem. Just a consequence of your dad's actions. However, you are your own whole human being and deserve happiness. His wife should know that. His wife shouldn't have been a bad person and treated you poorly, and thereby teaching her children to treat you badly because of her own unhappiness with your father. Your dad likely let you go because he knew he can't keep you safe from his chosen family and past choices. He should know that you don't deserve to live in that environment because of him. Hopefully he will send you money, even if he can't face you out of shame he has against himself. You are just a person. Rest up, heal, and go on doing person things. Internet hugs and head pats. Now for the third and last update. Hey everyone! I know it's been a while since I made my update post about moving out of my dad's house, and a lot of people have been asking for another update, so I figured I would give one last update. Things have been relatively quiet since I moved out. I transferred schools and started therapy a few months ago. John and Ben have been really kind about giving me space to grieve my mom, and I don't feel like I have to hide all of her stuff anymore. I managed to get a couple of the pictures digitally repaired thanks to someone reaching out to me on here. And while it's not the same, at least it's something. Family-wise, it's still hard. After my post blew up, it ended up reaching out to Amy, my half-sister. She said she had read all the comments and started feeling bad about everything that her mom and brother did. She ended up apologizing for what she had done and understood if I didn't want to forgive her. We texted for a while about all of it, and we've been in an okay place since that talk. I still haven't heard anything from Mark and Susan, but I don't really expect to either. My dad has come over to John and Ben's apartment to see me a few times, and we go to lunch about once a month. But other than that, I haven't really seen him much. John did tell me that about 3 weeks ago, my dad moved out of the house and got his own apartment. From what it sounds like, he and Susan aren't separating yet, but is giving her space. I tried texting him about it but never got a response. Things are okay now, even though it's getting close to a year since my mom died, which will probably hard when it happens. Thanks for everyone that messaged me or commented. I'm sorry I didn't respond to everyone, but the response was a little overwhelming. I think the most upsetting thing out of all of this is that Opie will never get those photos back. He doesn't have any more ties to his mother and doesn't have any way of asking anyone for photos of her, stories, or literally anything. All he has now is memory. And not disciplining Mark because there's no proof it was him? What, did Opie rip his own keepsakes? Right? Oh, it was a ghost. No, a-hole. It was the person who despised him and had access. You punish Mark for the destruction and for lying through his teeth. What horrible, crappy people. I'm just glad a 14-year-old sister was able to recognize she was being a craphead. I think I've read this before, but God, poor Opie. It's not his fault the dad was a cheater. Didn't even fight for Opie at all through the entire story. A typical pathetic cheater. Can't say I'm surprised at all. I'm still gutting for Opie regardless. He is a coward. He refuses to stand up for his child because he doesn't want the backlash for it. He should, rightly, tell them to be angry at him and not the boy who did nothing wrong, but he's completely spineless. And that lack of anything resembling moral or intestinal fortitude is destroying any chance he has of a relationship with Opie. I feel for Opie. The only people in his corner now were very nearly strangers. But I'm glad he has them because I don't know if he would have lasted much longer in a home filled with people who unjustly hate him or are embarrassed by his existence. Wait, so the loser dad moved out and separated from his wife and still hasn't come through for Opie? He's not even responding to their texts? That guy is an absolute piece of crap. What a waste of human being. He deserves every bad thing. He was happily pretending Opie didn't exist, till his mom passed and his existence was exposed. So what did you expect? Dude cheated, kept a child hidden, used said child as emotional shield when his family was angry at him, abandoned a kid with his buddies. He isn't cut to be a father, a husband, or anything really. Giving a great dawn to Ben and John is probably the only good decision he ever made. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my 19 female daughter she will have to move out of my house if I get divorced because of her lies after her stepdad saw her naked? Original post. Throwaway account due to the situation. But I need to know because I'm getting calls and texts from family accusing me of being an a-hole for not being on my daughter's side. My husband and I have been married for a little over 5 years now. I will say my daughter 19 female and he have an okay relationship. Not exactly father and daughter, but more of an advice ask and given type of relationship. I have never picked up on anything weird from my husband toward my daughter, and my daughter has never said or insinuated anything either. On Thursday, my husband and I were watching a movie in the living room. We paused the movie when he got up to use the bathroom. I heard him knocking on the door twice, literally 3 knocks each time, a couple of seconds apart. It was loud enough for me to hear from the living room. The next moment, I heard screaming. I rushed to the bathroom and saw my daughter completely naked, covering herself and yelling at my husband to get out. I didn't see everything that happened, but what I saw after hearing the yelling was my husband literally falling over his own feet and struggling to get the bathroom door closed. I asked my husband what happened and he said he knocked. Nobody answered, so we went in and saw my daughter naked in front of the mirror. He said to try to get out as quickly as possible. After my daughter calmed down, I asked her side of the story. She said she was changing and all of a sudden, my husband walked into the bathroom. I asked her why she didn't answer when he knocked. She said he didn't knock. I told her I heard him knock, so I was sure he did. She then admitted she didn't hear it because she had her AirPods on and was listening to music. We sorted the situation out, and my husband apologized to her, explaining that he thought the bathroom was empty. She even gave him a hug and apologized for yelling at him. The problem now is that my daughter got family members involved, and they are now calling my husband a creep. I got a call from my sister berating me for still having my husband in the house. I asked what she meant, and it came out that my daughter spun a whole other story. She left out the fact that she was listening to music with her AirPods and told everyone that she answered him, but he still walked into the bathroom to look at her. We have cameras in our hallway that prove my husband knocked. You can see it on the video, but the cameras have no audio. I sat my daughter down and asked her about it. She denied saying anything like that or telling anyone. I got mad and asked, "Then how does your aunt know what happened?" She went silent. She admitted she talked to my niece about it, and my niece must have told her mother. I asked her why she lied about what happened and made my husband look bad when he did nothing wrong. She denied lying about anything, but I told her what my sister said. She started crying and apologized, saying she was just talking and making up scenarios with her niece. Yesterday, I got calls and texts from family members as the wrong story spread. My husband is now looking like a creep to everyone. I sat my daughter down again and had her read some of the things being said about my husband. I told her she has to fix this because her lying caused it. She refused, saying she didn't spread this and only told her cousin. She also doesn't want to say anything to anyone because they'll think badly of her. She said, "They know my husband and this will just blow over." Everything blew up when my husband walked into the living room with his bags packed and said he's going to stay with his parents for a while because he doesn't want to be in this situation anymore, where he's made out to be this kind of person. My daughter broke down, apologized repeatedly, and said she would fix it, but my husband still left. I told her that if I get divorced because of her lies, she will be moving out of my house. I told her she better fix what she did and tell everyone what really happened because I will not lose a man who loves and actually cares for me over lies. She asked me to help her and I told her no. She isn't a child anymore, and her lies for attention caused this. This is on her. Now I'm being accused of taking my husband's side and not providing a safe space for my daughter. I don't know what to do. My husband asked for space, my daughter is inconsolable, and I am not in the best state myself. Now for the comments before reading the update. Extremely distressing for your husband. I would take your daughter, drive to the niece's house, sit down with the niece and her mother, and make your daughter tell them the real story. After that, I would insist that the niece's mother call every single person she or they told and admit she was wrong. If your daughter refuses, kick her out. For every person who said anything about your husband, cut them out of your life unless they apologize to him in person. She said she was lying, but for all I know, she's lying now. Her mom is making her say it's a lie. Why has the husband moved out if it was just a mistake? No matter what she says now, people will still believe he's a creep. I hope she's happy. You're the a-hole. Door locks. Stop making assumptions. Who said I don't have locks on the doors? Is it my fault my daughter didn't use the freaking lock on the door? You're the a-hole if you choose a man over your daughter. So I should choose my daughter who lied for attention, or some reason I don't really know, especially over something like this, over a man that has done nothing but love me and cared for us both without asking for anything in return? Yes and no. Your daughter needs therapy. Something caused her to lie and create this chaos. If you kick her out, you could lose her for good, or she could really spiral out of control. Your husband did nothing wrong since you heard him knocking even though the video has no sound. I honestly think therapy for her individually, along with family therapy, will probably work in time. Nobody can say with 100% accuracy if it will, but it's worth trying. I know many are downvoting me, but honestly, I don't care. I just strongly feel that everything that can be done to help your daughter should come first. I will sound selfish now, I know that, but I don't care. My husband comes first now. My marriage comes first. Trying to fix what she broke comes first, not her, especially since she refuses to help fix what she broke. Actions have consequences, and again, I will be called a bad mother, but she's going to learn this lesson the hard way. Now for the update over a week later. Sorry for only updating now, but I'm not in the best place at the moment, and it has taken me a couple of days to get my thoughts together. I don't know what to do anymore. My husband has asked for a divorce. First, let me answer a couple of questions I saw coming up repeatedly. Locks. We have locks on every door in the house. I don't know why my daughter didn't use the lock on the bathroom door. Cameras. The cameras inside the house aren't pointed at any door, except for the ones at the front and back doors. The other camera is at the end of the hall, and you can see every door in the hallway from that camera. Bathroom. We have a bathroom in our bedroom, but we can't use it at the moment because the water is shut off due to renovations. On Friday, my husband came back home and asked to talk. During our conversation, he showed me his phone, and some of the things my family members were saying about him were outright horrible. Calling him a pedo, asking him how many times he had peeked before. I don't recognize my family anymore. I understand if he had actually done something wrong, but he hasn't. The hatred they are showing over a stupid mistake tells me they refuse to listen, or they have hated him from the start and are now using this to try and get rid of him. He said he can't ever come back, and that this has now started to affect his work life as well. He was called into HR to explain himself, because some of my family members had called his office. Luckily, his employer hasn't taken any action and refuses to do anything unless a case is brought against him. They know my husband very well, and I think they believe him because he is still working. During our talk, he explained that he does love me and is happy I stood up for him, but my daughter's actions have caused too many problems, accusations, and fears. He said he has been sitting at the office and at his parents' home every day, just waiting for the police to show up and arrest him. He said her lies broke him, and he can't see a way to come back from this. I asked him to reconsider and suggested counseling, but he refused, saying everything is too broken to fix. I told him I would kick my daughter out and explained everything I had done to address the situation. However, he said I'm missing the point. His life could have been completely ruined because of a lie. My family will never trust him again and will always harbor hatred or suspicions about him. Now that my daughter wants to clear things up so long after the fact, they will think we forced her to do it, which will just make things worse. He said he will always remain the creep in their eyes. I told him we could cut off my family and move away. I showed him my phone and the messages I sent to every single person who refused to listen, and I told him I blocked them. He asked about my daughter. I said I would kick her out and she could stay with my parents. He asked if, after we moved away, I would abandon my daughter completely, because he doesn't want to be near her or alone with her at all. I didn't know how to respond. Before I could answer, he said again that it's better for us to get divorced. He said, I will never ask you to abandon your daughter. I will never expect you to do something like that. But I don't want her anywhere near me. If you abandon your daughter, I don't know if I could ever look at you the same afterwards, even if it was for my sake. The only solution here is for us to get divorced. At that moment, my daughter came running down the hallway into the living room, crying. I think she had been listening to our conversation. Before she could say anything, my husband jumped up from the couch, put his hands out, and asked her not to come near him. He said, before you say anything, I will start recording the conversation now, and took out his phone. I think I saw something break in my daughter's eyes at that moment as the realization of everything hit her all at once. She asked my husband to forgive her and said she never meant for things to get so out of hand. She explained she was just making up scenarios with her cousin, and her cousin ran with it. My husband asked her why she didn't clear it up immediately. She said she didn't think it would go this far and thought it would just blow over because everyone knows him. He showed her his phone and asked her to read some of the messages. My daughter went completely silent. We talked for about 4 hours. At the end, my husband said he would give us 3 months to move out of the house because it is his house. He said my daughter could keep the car because it was a gift and that he would finish paying this year's tuition but would not pay anything going forward. He said he hasn't gotten a lawyer yet but told me to get one. He would like to handle the divorce without lawyers, but if I want one, I can get one. He said he would be fair in the divorce and doesn't harbor anything against me, but he can't stay in the relationship. My daughter was sitting on the floor, looking like a ghost. I couldn't say anything while listening to him talk about divorce and splitting assets as if the last 5 years were nothing. The best way to describe it is like he was returning something to a store. He left the house and I just sat on a couch. I don't know if I was crying, talking, or what. I can't remember much, as everything felt muffled. Then my daughter started crying, saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry," over and over while lying on the floor. When I got up, I saw my husband's car still in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw him crying in the car. Seeing that completely broke me. My daughter and I haven't talked since Friday. My family members have shown up at the house to apologize because my daughter has now cleared everything up and even shared a video from the camera with them. Every time they show up, I just close the door in their faces. I've been getting Facebook messages, Instagram messages, calls, and texts. When I block them, they create new accounts or use different numbers. I don't want to lose my husband. I really don't. This is the first man I've ever met who has treated me with kindness, respect, and love, and now it's all over. I've tried to talk to him and convince him to go to counseling, but every time I try, he responds, I can't take the risk. I've tried to meet him in person, but he says it wouldn't be a good idea. I've gone to his parents' house, but they refuse to let me see him. I've gone to his work, but I was told he was sent home by his boss. I don't know how to fix this. Having my daughter move out won't work because I need to move out of the house as well. I don't want anything from my husband, I just want him. I haven't talked to a lawyer yet, but I don't think I can keep the house. He owned it before we moved in. I really want to fix this. I still want to kick my daughter out of the house, but would he still give me a chance to fix it, even after what he said about me abandoning my daughter and not seeing me the same afterwards? Am I really going to lose a wonderful man? Edit. I forgot how Reddit fixates on one thing. Regarding the house, I have no intentions of trying to take his house or anything like that. It's not my house. I had questions in my previous post about the house, and I think I just answered them here. I am not going to try to take his house. He owns it and has owned it since before we got together. I have no right to the house and will not try to take it. I hope this clears it up. Quite simply, you can't fix this. What your daughter did is absolutely horrendous. She has ruined your soon-to-be ex-husband's reputation and your relationship with one lie. Stop visiting him at work. Stop trying to contact him. Just stop. As hard as this is for you, it's even harder for him. The more you reach out, violating his boundaries, the more likely he is to build resentment. If you're unable to respect his wishes regarding contact, it's no wonder your daughter has boundary issues. Focus on rebuilding your and your daughter's lives from scratch, without him. Get therapy for your daughter so she learns to be better. Right now, she's a dumpster fire. It sounds like he is going to be very kind to you in the divorce. Exactly. Opie needs to leave this poor man alone. And leave him alone for good. He doesn't deserve all this drama. What is happening with your sister and her daughter? Is your niece showing remorse? Are there going to be consequences for her actions? Do you think your family will reach out to your husband's company to apologize for their stupidity? I'm sorry, Opie. I wish people understood how false allegations can ruin a person's life. Your daughter and niece's stupidity and callous behavior destroyed a family, a marriage, your relationship with your daughter, and your relationship with family members. They are completely silent. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my mom to Christmas dinner after what she did last year? I'm 34 years old and a mom of 2 little kids. Last year, during Christmas dinner, my mom 65 caused a big scene. She showed up with several bottles of wine, even though we all knew she's in treatment for alcohol issues. At first, everything was fine, but halfway through dinner, she started criticizing my husband, 37, in front of everyone. She mocked his job and said it wasn't good enough for her daughter. I tried to calm her down, but after a few minutes, she started bad-mouthing me too, saying I had been a disappointment as a daughter. My kids, who are 7 and 4, were there listening to everything. It was so humiliating, we had to ask her to leave. This year, I decided not to invite her to avoid a similar drama, but my sister, 40, is furious with me. She says it's cruel to leave her alone on Christmas, and that I should give her another chance. My husband supports my decision, but the rest of my family is making me feel like the villain. Am I the bad one for protecting my family's peace and not inviting her? Now for the comments. Your sister is free to spend Christmas with her, but you're wise not to. Your kids come first, not your alcoholic mother. She doesn't get to ruin another holiday for them. They don't need those kinds of memories. Not a-hole. Exactly. Inviting her over again will just lead to another ruined holiday. Protect your peace and your children. Your sister can host her if she really wants to. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. My mom did something similar to my sister last Christmas. She got very drunk and screamed at her over something trivial in front of her two young kids, 3 and 5. My sister cut her off completely after that, and I don't blame her for a second. It shouldn't just be Christmas where your mom isn't welcome. She shouldn't be in OP's kids' lives at all, until she's been sober for a year. OP's husband shouldn't have to deal with her either, not until she's been sober for a year and apologizes to him for being disrespectful. Not the a-hole. I am a substance abuse therapist. This is a boundary you need to put in place to protect yourself and your family, as well as to send a message that you won't tolerate her poor choices and behavior. Love her from a distance. Time can heal these wounds, but she needs to prove to you that she will stay clean and sober, and she needs to rebuild that trust. Update. How do I, 49 female, move forward after my daughter, 22 female, hid her father's affair from me for 2 years? Original post. I, 49 female, was married to my ex-husband, Derek, 49 male, for 20 years before divorcing a few months ago. We have 2 kids, a daughter, 22 female, and a son, 17 male. I found out Derek had been having a 2-year affair and my world was shattered. But what hurt almost as much was discovering that my daughter had known about it the whole time. She actively hid it from me for 2 years, lying, covering for him, and never once trying to warn me. When I found out, I was devastated, not just by my husband's betrayal, but by my daughter's choice to keep it from me. She was young at the time, and I understand it was a difficult position for her, but the pain was immense. I never confronted her directly, thinking it might affect her as she was about to go off to college. I just told her I knew, that I understood and tried to move on. But after she left, I found myself distancing from her more and more. It wasn't planned, I just needed space to heal, and that meant not calling her as often or reaching out as much. Fast forward a year and a half, and I've started dating someone 41 male who has a 10-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Recently, we all went to Disney together and he posted a family photo of us on social media. For context, my boyfriend covered all the expenses as a gift for his daughter's birthday, wanting to make it special for her. Along with my son and me, she chose her 2 cousins to come along, making it a big family-style trip that was all about her. My daughter must have seen the post because she didn't call me for over a month afterward. And honestly, I wasn't as affected by her absence as I would have been before. I still love her, but every interaction brings up that pain. Out of nowhere, she called me in tears. She was screaming, saying I obviously hadn't forgiven her and that I'd shut her out on purpose. She accused me of replacing her with my boyfriend and his daughter. She kept saying, "It was a long time ago. I was a kid. I didn't mean to hurt you." She explained she thought she was doing the right thing by staying quiet, that she didn't know how to tell me, and that she was terrified of breaking our family apart. She asked me if I'd ever forgive her or if I'd move on for good. I tried to tell her that I loved her and never wanted to replace her, but she just kept pushing, saying I should get over it by now and that I'd abandon her for this new life. To top it off, my ex-husband later called me, furious, accusing me of leaving my daughter for a younger man and a new family. He even had the nerve to call me selfish for moving on. Ironically, his girlfriend is 30, and he's the one who blew up our family with his affair. It feels like no one understands that I'm still trying to recover from years of betrayal, and it seems like I'm expected to just let it go as if my pain doesn't matter. My son, who lives with me, found out about his sister hiding the affair after overhearing my ex-mother-in-law and sister-in-law talking. He was crushed and hasn't forgiven her either, and they've barely spoken since. I never wanted him to know, but it feels like the entire family is divided now, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm in therapy, but I still feel lost. Part Part of me knows she was young and didn't know how to handle it, but another part of me feels like she chose him over me. I love my daughter, but every time we talk, that hurt resurfaces. I don't know if I'm failing as a mother or if I'm protecting myself. I feel like I've emotionally checked out, and I don't know how to reconnect. Edit, just to clarify, my divorce actually happened a few months ago, not 3 years ago as I originally mentioned. My sister, who is a bit of a scatterbrain, encouraged me to post here and typed out much of it for me. In the process, she got the timeline wrong and I didn't catch it before posting. My daughter was 17 when she found out about the affair. She had a lot going on at a time, including having to change schools due to some personal issues and repeating a year. So when I found out, it was less than 2 years ago. I hope this clears up the confusion. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You should definitely cut all contact with your ex unless it's about your minor child. Keep all communication via text so you don't have to hear his BS. That he thinks he can call and berate you is unbelievable. Next time, don't pick up or just hung up. Maybe you and your daughter could get therapy together to try and sort things out. I understand she was a kid trying to keep the family together, but your feelings are totally valid. I can't imagine how hurtful it must have been knowing she hid it for so long. It's been 5 years. She could have worked on all of this by now. Her daughter's feelings about being replaced with a new family are totally valid too. Now there's 5 years of damage done to her daughter on top of all the guilt she felt. Holding children to adult standards is BS. I understand your point, but it's actually only been less than 2 years since I found out about everything. Did your daughter ever apologize for what she did? Your ex can go kick rocks. I hope you blocked him after telling him to take a long walk off a short beer and taking a long look in the mirror. He had your daughter complicit in his affair and blew up his marriage. Unfortunately, your daughter has learned not to take accountability from her dad. If you need to be in contact with your ex due to your son, use a family app. Outside of that, don't speak or engage with him. He is an a-hole. OP, I wish you all the best with your healing and happiness. Thank you for your kind words and support. Honestly, my daughter's apology has been complicated. She did express that she was sorry, but it often came with explanations of how difficult it was for her, how she was stuck between her father and me. I can understand that she was young and in an impossible situation, but it still feels like she's brushing aside the depth of the hurt. Sometimes it seems like she doesn't fully understand why it's so painful for me, and that part has been hard to get past. As for my ex, yes, I've definitely limited contact with him to what's necessary for our son. My son mostly stays with me, so that call was a bit unexpected. We rarely speak directly, and when we do, it's usually through our lawyers. Our divorce was only finalized a few months ago, so I'm still adjusting to all the boundaries and just trying to protect my peace. He doesn't deserve any extra energy or emotional space in my life, and I'm doing my best to keep it that way. Now for the update. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. I was honestly overwhelmed by the sheer number of replies. I tried my best to read through as many as I could, and some of the advice was hard to hear but necessary. It's been a lot to take in, but one comment really stayed with me. Someone mentioned how fragile life is and how little time we truly have with the people we love. That struck me deeply. I've been so consumed by the pain and anger that I forgot to think about what I'd want my relationship with my daughter to look like in the long run. If something were to happen tomorrow, would I be okay with leaving things as they are? That thought stayed with me, and within a few days, I decided to contact my daughter. I told her I wanted us to talk, not to rehash the past or point fingers, but to figure out how we could move forward. She was hesitant at first, which I completely understand. We had a conversation a few nights ago, and while it wasn't easy, I'm grateful she was willing to open up. There were tense moments, and I won't lie, it was hard to hear some of what she said. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were finally addressing what had been festering between us. We talked about what had happened, and I finally asked her for the truth about everything. When I first discovered her father's affair, he told me that she had always known about it. In fact, he claimed she had been his ally, hiding things from me multiple times. He even said that she disliked me and was on his side. Hearing that from him was devastating. I couldn't believe my daughter would do something like that or feel that way about me. The way I found out about the affair was awful, and the idea that my daughter had played any part in it, even unknowingly, made it so much worse. At first, she was very reluctant to talk about it, but eventually, she opened up and shared everything, including what led to her actions. A few months before discovering the affair, she had been involved in a difficult situation at her high school. Without going into specifics, it was a matter where her actions led to serious consequences. The school had a zero-tolerance policy, and as a result, she was expelled. She had to transfer to a new school and repeat the year. On top of that, her grades suffered, and she found it challenging to get back on track. When it happened, I felt it was important for her to face the full weight of her actions and take responsibility. I grounded her and took away her electronics, hoping the consequences would help her reflect and grow. I wanted her to understand the gravity of the situation and emerge from it as a better person. Her father, however, completely disagreed with my approach. He felt I was being too harsh, insisting that she had already learned her lesson and needed support rather than punishment. The tension in our household became unbearable. Between my frustration with him and my disappointment in her actions, I found it harder and harder to communicate properly with her. There were constant fights, arguments that seemed to erupt over everything and nothing at the same time. It wasn't just them. Therapy over the past year helped me realize that I played a part too. My hurt and frustration often came out as anger, and instead of addressing things calmly, I let my emotions take control. I was constantly angry and frustrated, and my mood likely created an even more tense and uncomfortable environment for everyone. So when she found out about his affair shortly after, she was still angry at me and reeling from everything that had happened. She admitted that part of her decision to stay quiet was fueled by a desire to get back at me. She felt like keeping the secret was her way of taking revenge, though she now realizes how wrong that was. She also told me she had tried to get her father to come clean, but he discouraged her, saying I had already been disappointed enough by her situation and shouldn't be burdened further. Feeling trapped, she lied and kept lying, hoping it would somehow blow over without me finding out. Hearing this from her was heartbreaking. It didn't justify what she did, but it helped me understand her perspective. Knowing her father pressured her to keep the secret makes my anger toward him even stronger. He broke everything with his affair and then used our daughter to cover for him, making her feel trapped and responsible for his lies. I hate what he put her through. To be honest, our marriage was already going through a rough patch at a time, and we likely would have ended up divorcing anyway. However, it's one thing to fail as a husband, but to fail so completely as a parent is unforgivable. They always had a good relationship, and I never wanted to ruin that for her, even when I was angry. But seeing how he used her in his lies has only deepened my resentment. I told her that I've been hurt, not just by her actions, but by how deeply they shook my trust in her. At the same time, I reminded her that I love her and always will. I said that while I can't change the past, I want to rebuild our relationship. We agreed to take things one step at a time. I suggested we try online therapy together. While she was hesitant at first, she agreed. She's already been seeing a therapist on her own and wasn't sure about opening up in a joint session, but I think she ultimately realized how much I want to make this work. I also brought up her brother. They've never had a closest relationship. Has always been more reserved and independent, while she's more outgoing and emotional. There's been tension between them in the past, and ever since he overheard what happened with her hiding the affair, they've barely spoken. I've tried to talk to him about maybe giving her another chance, even when I wasn't on the best of terms with her. I really want them to have a good relationship, but I also don't want to push him too much. He's his own person, and I don't want him to feel like I'm forcing him into something he isn't ready for or doesn't want to do. He is allowed to make his own decisions, and if they need time apart to heal, I'll respect that. Someone mentioned the unrealistic standards we often hold women to, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't hold her to any impossible standard just because she's a woman. She is the light of my life, but sometimes I realize I've shared everything in such a negative way because of how it all played out. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. I don't know exactly where I stand or what I'm feeling at times. I'm just moving through life like anyone else, doing the best I can. Thank you all again for your advice and for giving me the push I needed to start this conversation. It's not easy, but I'm hopeful we'll get through this, one step at a time. Please let go of the idea of your son and daughter being close. Don't push for it. Don't ask for it. Just let it go. People choose who they want to engage with, and quite frankly, if I were your son, I would not want to be around your daughter either. They won't be close and you need to be okay with that. Honestly, I'm coming to terms with it. They have a decent age gap and their personalities are very different, which often causes friction. Even before her concealment of the affair came to light, they weren't close. There are several reasons for it, and I don't want to paint anyone in a bad light, but it's been like this for some time now. Right now, I'm trying to let my son be his own person and respect his feelings. I don't want to pressure him into prioritizing this relationship. I've also put him in therapy to help him process everything. He is a bit apathetic about the situation, not towards me, but towards his sister. He just doesn't care anymore, which in some ways feels worse. But this is where things stand for now, and we don't know what might happen in the future. I'm learning to take it one day at a time. Holy crap, you are both really crappy parents. No wonder your kids have issues. I'm doing my absolute best. It's so easy to sit back and judge without knowing the full picture. Tell me, what makes me a crappy parent for punishing my daughter for her actions? For taking some time to heal and process just because I'm human too? I gave her everything she needed to succeed in life. And as soon as that incident happened, I put her into therapy. I'm 100% okay with facing harsh judgment for how I handled the affair situation. But I'm not okay with being judged for how I handled the school situation. I stand by my decisions. Maybe my tone was off, but I'm confident that what I did was right. Anyone who acts a certain way should be ready to face the consequences. And that's what I was teaching her. Yes, her constant tantrums bothered me. Yes, everything about the situation bothered me on a personal human level. But I'm not some freaking saint who just sits on a high throne. It's easy to point fingers at mothers especially. I know you're calling both of us crappy parents, but I'm going to push back here. We're human too. I did my very best, and no, you don't get to call me a crappy parent. Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my best friend after she talked to my cheating ex-husband behind my back and made hurtful comments? I, 37 female, left my husband, 38 male, earlier this year after discovering he was cheating on me with someone from his workplace. We were together for 12 years, married for 8, and I truly thought we were solid. Finding out he had been sneaking around and lying to me for months was the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever experienced. I found out over Christmas last year. When I decided to leave, I asked my friends for one simple favor. Please don't maintain a relationship with him. I didn't think it was unreasonable. He betrayed me, and I needed my friends to have my back as I tried to pick up the pieces of my life. Most of them understood, but one of my closest friends, Sarah, 38 female, completely ignored my request. Here's the thing. Sarah and I have been best friends for over 15 years, but she's always had a strange dynamic when it came to my relationships. She used to make comments about how she was jealous that I always ended up with the good-looking guys, and would sometimes joke that she had a connection with my ex, even before he and I got together. I used to laugh it off, even though it made me feel uncomfortable and belittled, thinking she didn't mean anything by it. But now I'm not so sure. After the split, I started noticing Sarah acting strangely. She'd casually drop things into conversations that only my ex would know, like details about his new job or what he'd been up to. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off, saying she'd read it on his social media. Eventually, a mutual friend told me Sarah had been texting him regularly and even meeting him for coffee. When I confronted her, she admitted it but tried to downplay it, saying we were friends long before you and he got together. She added, I'm not going to throw away my connection with him just because you two didn't work out. What hurt even more was when she said, I don't get why you're so upset. He's still a great guy, and you need to stop being so controlling. She accused me of being too emotional about the divorce and said I was forcing her to pick sides. Then she told me to stop always being the victim. Here's what really stings. I don't know what he's been telling him about me. I confided in Sarah about everything. How hard it's been to start over, how anxious I feel about my finances, and how much I've struggled with therapy. The thought that she might have shared those deeply personal things with a man who destroyed me makes me sick. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore and stopped speaking to her. Now she's texting me saying she misses our friendship and thinks I'm being unreasonable for cutting her off. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for walking away from Sarah? Was I too harsh? Or did she cross a major line here? Are you sure they weren't sleeping together too? Fairly sure. She is in a relationship with someone else and she seems pretty committed to him. My ex never showed any interest in her. It was always her with the insistence that they had a connection. I highly doubt she is. Either way, please get your full panel checked for STIs. I did get checked right away after I found out he cheated, because he would come home and have unprotected sex with me after being with another woman. She says you're making her pick sides, but she's willing to throw away your friendship to keep him around. She picked him.